If you're married to an autistic person, there may be moments when something feels strangely off in the relationship, even though your spouse appears to be doing everything right. They may say the appropriate words. They may smile when they're supposed to smile. They may ask how your day went. They may apologize after an argument. They may even be exceptionally polite, reasonable, and attentive. And yet, you may still find yourself thinking, why doesn't this feel like connection? One possible answer is masking. Masking is often described as an autistic person hiding autistic traits in order to appear more neurotypical. But that definition doesn't fully capture what happens when masking develops during childhood and then follows someone into marriage. For some autistic adults, masking isn't something they consciously turn on and off. It became a developmental habit. It became their definition of how human interaction works. As a child, they may have learned, well, when somebody says this, I say that. Or when people laugh, I laugh. Or when somebody's upset, I make this certain facial expression. Or when I don't understand what somebody wants from me, I study what other people do and imitate it. Basically, while the other kids were simply socializing, this autistic child may have been quietly conducting field research on the mysterious behavior of Homo sapiens. Interesting. When one human shows another human a picture of a puppy, both humans make a high-pitched sound. Oh, I probably should write that down. And if that strategy helped them avoid embarrassment, criticism, bullying, rejection, or conflict, their nervous system had every reason to keep doing it. Eventually, the mask may stop feeling like a mask. It starts feeling normal. That brings us to 6 developmental masking habits that your autistic spouse may still believe are perfectly ordinary ways of relating. The first one is rehearsing conversations before they happen. Your ASD spouse may mentally prepare for interactions much more than you realize. Before an important conversation, they may anticipate what you're likely to say, decide what response would be appropriate, and essentially construct a conversational map. Some autistic people rehearse conversations in the shower. Some rehearse them while driving. Some rehearse conversations that haven't happened yet, conversations that might happen, conversations that probably won't happen, and occasionally a conversation with someone they haven't seen since 1998. And yes, they won that imaginary argument spectacularly. This kind of preparation can actually be extremely useful. But the problem begins when a real conversation leaves the map. You, as the NT spouse, express an emotion they didn't anticipate, or maybe you ask an unexpected question, or maybe you need reassurance in a form they haven't prepared for. Suddenly, the autistic internal GPS announces recalculating, and then apparently drives directly into the lake. Your ASD spouse may freeze, become unusually quiet, sound mechanical, change the subject, or try to end the conversation. And then the neurotypical partner interprets that as, you just don't care. The autistic partner may actually be experiencing, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. Those are profound different realities. And recognizing that difference can prevent a couple from turning a moment of cognitive overload into a 3-hour investigation into whether anyone has ever loved anyone in the history of marriage. The second masking habit is borrowing emotional expressions from other people. Some autistic adults become remarkable students of human behavior. They learn facial expressions, conversational rhythms, humor, comforting phrases, and even tones of voice by observing others. They may have spent decades building an enormous internal library of social responses. Imagine Netflix, except every category is labeled things humans apparently say. Someone is grieving? Click sympathetic response. Someone got promoted? Click enthusiastic response. Your neurotypical spouse got a haircut? This one's dangerous. Proceed carefully. And because those learned responses work, they continue using them. But marriage eventually asks for something imitation can't fully provide. Vulnerability. The neurotypical spouse doesn't simply want the correct response. They want access to the person underneath the response. Instead of the ASD spouse automatically saying, oh, I'm sorry you're feeling that way, authentic intimacy might sound more like this. I know I'm supposed to know what to say right now, but I honestly don't. But I can see that you're hurting, and I want to understand. Now, that may sound less polished, but it can feel far more intimate, because sometimes the most emotionally connected sentence in a neurodiverse marriage is simply, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing right now, but I'm staying here with you. That's not exactly Hallmark card material, but it's real. Now, the third masking habit is performing interest when mentally exhausted. An autistic spouse may have learned very early that good relationships require eye contact, questions, facial responsiveness, appropriate nodding, and visible enthusiasm. So they provide those things. The difficulty is that performing all of them simultaneously can require enormous cognitive energy. Imagine trying to listen to someone while consciously monitoring your eyes, face, posture, tone, timing, words, and the other person's emotional reactions. The ASD brain is thinking, eye contact, but not too much eye contact. Okay, now look away. Wait, did I look away too long? Nod. Was that too many nods? Why am I still nodding? Stop nodding. Oh no, now my face looks angry. Meanwhile, your neurotypical spouse has been talking for the last 15 minutes, and you have absolutely no idea what happened after she said, so my sister called today. That's not exactly a relaxing Tuesday evening, full of mental gymnastics. No wonder you're burnt out at the end of the day. By the end of a workday, the autistic partner may have very little capacity remaining, and the neurotypical spouse sees withdrawal and thinks, everyone else gets the best version of you, and I get the leftovers again. And painfully, there may be some truth in the second half of that sentence, but not necessarily because anyone else matters more. Home may be the only place where the autistic partner's nervous system finally stops performing, and sometimes not even then. Imagine spending 8 hours at work successfully pretending fluorescent lights aren't trying to interrogate you, that coworkers aren't talking simultaneously, and someone reheating fish in the break room hasn't committed an international crime. Eventually, the nervous system wants out. The solution isn't demanding more performance in home. It's creating ways to reconnect after decompression. That might mean the neurotypical spouse saying, hey, you know what? Take 30 minutes to reset when you get home, and then we'll spend 15 minutes together without phones. Now, connection becomes predictable rather than another social demand. And yes, some neurotypical partners may hear 30 minutes of decompression and think, interesting, I've been requesting decompression since 2014. Fair point. Both nervous systems count. The fourth masking habit is agreeing in order to escape emotional tension. Some autistic adults learn that disagreement is dangerous. Emotions are messy. Maybe disagreement led to ridicule, punishment, rejection, or overwhelming emotional interactions when they were younger. So they developed a remarkably effective strategy. Agree. They say, okay, fine. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay, honey. Yeah, sure, sure, sure. The neurotypical partner hears resolution. The autistic partner experiences escape. The conversation ends, the nervous system celebrates, and somewhere inside the autistic brain, a tiny employee flips the sign from emergency to closed. Then the same problem happens again 3 days later, and the neurotypical spouse becomes furious because we already talked about this. Technically, you did. But one person may have been trying to solve the problem while the other person's nervous system was trying to find the nearest emergency exit. This is why some couples have arguments that feel suspiciously like hostage negotiations. Do you understand why I'm upset? Yeah. Do you agree that we need to change this? Yeah, yeah. So we're going to do something different, right? You sure? Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. 3 days later, absolutely nothing has changed, and everyone is shocked again. A healthier approach is to make disagreement safe. The neurotypical spouse can say, I don't need you to agree with me right now. I need to know what you actually think. And then comes the difficult part. If your ASD spouse finally disagrees, don't punish the honesty. Otherwise, masking immediately becomes safer than authenticity ever did. So if someone finally says, actually, I don't agree with you on this, and the response from the NT is a 90-minute closing argument, complete with exhibits A through Q, the ASD nervous system may reasonably conclude, excellent, we shall never be honest again. The fifth habit is replacing emotional understanding with problem solving. This one creates enormous conflict in neurodiverse marriages. The NT wife says, I'm completely overwhelmed. The ASD spouse says, why don't you make a schedule? Or the NT spouse says, I feel so lonely. The ASD spouse says, we're together every night. The NT spouse says, I don't feel important to you. And then the ASD spouse produces evidence demonstrating all the things they've done for you since approximately 2007. And those things may be organized chronologically and possibly with receipts. The NT wife says, I just need you to understand how I'm feeling. And the ASD spouse says, I understand. That's why I'm explaining how to fix it. At this point, somewhere in the distance, a marriage therapist senses a disturbance in the force. The neurotypical partner experiences this as emotional dismissal, but sometimes the autistic partner is desperately attempting to demonstrate love through usefulness. They don't know how to enter the emotion, so they try to repair the situation surrounding it. Their internal logic may be beautifully straightforward. The ASD spouse thinks, my NT is distressed. Distress is bad. Problems cause distress. Therefore, eliminate problem. Spouse happy. Marriage successful. And we can finally return to watching this TV show I'm interested in. Unfortunately, emotions don't always submit a work order. Sometimes people don't want a solution. They want companionship inside the problem. A powerful relationship strategy is to establish one simple question. The ASD spouse can say, do you want comfort, understanding, or solutions right now? That question can save an astonishing number of arguments. And if the answer is comfort, please understand that this is not the secret code for provide 3 practical recommendations while hugging me. No, it just simply means comfort. Okay, the 6th masking habit is hiding overwhelm until it becomes shut down, irritability, or withdrawal. Many autistic adults learned very early that saying, this is too much for me, it wasn't acceptable. So they pushed through. They pushed through noise, social interaction, unexpected changes, emotional conversations, work demands, parenting, household responsibilities. They kept pushing, they kept functioning. And from the outside, everything looked fine. Inside, however, that nervous system may resemble a laptop with 47 browser tabs open, 3 frozen programs, a mysterious video playing somewhere, and a warning message that says, system resources critically low. And naturally, the solution is to open another tab until suddenly they can't. Then the neurotypical spouse experiences what happens next. Silence, irritability, withdrawal, and a closed door. Or an autistic partner who seems emotionally unavailable precisely when the relationship needs connection most. But the problem may have started hours or even days earlier. This is one of the healthiest things an autistic partner can learn to say. I'm approaching my limit right now. No offense. Not after the shutdown, before it. Preferably before the laptop bursts into flames. And the neurotypical partner can help enormously by responding to that statement as useful information rather than rejection and abandonment. Because this is where neurodiverse couples can begin closing what I call the intentionality gap. The intentionality gap is the painful distance between what one partner intends and what the other partner experiences. The autistic spouse may intend love, while the neurotypical spouse experiences distance. The ASD spouse may intend problem solving, while the NT partner experiences dismissal. The ASD spouse may intend conflict reduction, while the neurotypical partner experiences avoidance. The ASD partner may intend self-regulation, while the NT partner experiences abandonment. Now, both experiences matter, and this is incredibly important. Understanding masking should never become an excuse for ignoring the emotional needs of the neurotypical spouse. If someone has spent years feeling lonely, confused, dismissed, emotionally deprived, simply explaining autism doesn't magically erase that pain. You can't walk into 20 years of marital loneliness and announce, hey, good news. We have identified the neurological mechanism and expect everybody to give you a high five. Understanding is the beginning of change. It's not a substitute for change. But understanding masking gives the couple a much better starting point. Instead of asking, which one of us is the problem? You can begin asking, what patterns keep happening between us? That's a radically different question. Because once the enemy becomes the pattern rather than the person, both partners can stand on the same side of the problem. And instead of demanding better performance from the autistic partner, the goal becomes something much more powerful. Less performance, more honesty. The ASD spouse can say, I don't understand what you're feeling yet. I need 20 minutes before I could talk about this. Or I know that you're hurting, but I don't know what response you need from me right now. Or I disagree with you, but I'm afraid disagreement will turn into an argument. Or I've been pretending I'm okay and I'm actually not. Or I love you, but my brain has officially stopped accepting new applications for today. That last one may not appear in any marriage textbook, but frankly, probably should. Those statements aren't polished, and they aren't neurotypical mimicry, and they aren't performances of intimacy. They are intimacy. And ironically, when an autistic spouse begins feeling safe enough to stop trying to look perfectly connected, guess what? Genuine connection may finally have room to grow. Wouldn't that be great? The goal of a neurodiverse marriage isn't to turn the autistic partner into a convincing neurotypical partner. And it isn't to ask the neurotypical spouse to stop needing emotional connection. No, no, no. Neither partner should have to become somebody else to make the marriage work. The goal is to create a relationship where neither person has to pretend anymore, where the autistic partner can say, "I'm overloaded," without being accused of not caring, where the neurotypical partner can say, "I'm lonely," without being told that their feelings are logically inaccurate because technically both people have occupied the same building for 6 consecutive hours. Physical proximity is not necessarily intimacy. Otherwise, everyone sitting in an airport terminal would be in a very committed relationship. The goal is for both partners to become increasingly capable of telling the truth about their internal experience and increasingly capable of hearing the other person's truth without immediately defending themselves. Because ultimately, the opposite of masking isn't better social performance, it is safety. And when two people can tell the truth about what's happening inside them, even when that truth is awkward, imperfect, confusing, or difficult to explain, they have something much more valuable than a perfect performance. They have the chance at genuine intimacy, and genuine intimacy is rarely polished. Sometimes it looks like eye contact and beautiful words. Sometimes it looks like someone saying, "I don't know what you're asking me to do." Sometimes it looks like a 20-minute sensory break. Sometimes it looks like, "I disagree with you, but I'm still here for you." And occasionally, it looks like two exhausted people sitting on opposite ends of the couch, eating snacks, realizing that neither one of them is actually the enemy, which in the world of neurodiverse marriage is sometimes a pretty spectacular evening. If this resonates, like, subscribe, comment. I will read and respond to your comment. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk.